it quite honestly feels like the car that I bought and the car that I picked up was a first generation, first year model car. This feels like I traded in my 2024 for 2026. This feels much more refined, much more balanced, but also still has all of that power that is there instantly.
Hey there, Brandon here, Socket Monkey Garage, as I make my way through a little bit of a cluttered garage at the moment. Did a little bit of work on the Z4 a couple days ago, washed it as well, but the reason that we are here today is that car right behind me. So if you live, I guess, anywhere near where I do in Chattanooga, Tennessee, you know that last week or so has just been one round after another of storms. And so this car has sat here undriven and unused. And I think it's an excellent opportunity to take a moment and check the 12-volt battery status since I installed that BM2 Bluetooth battery monitor, and just see where it's been since it's been sitting here unused, untouched. I've even actually left the key in the house, so the proximity awareness is unaware that I'm here. Last time I checked a few days prior to parking it here, it had sat up at the shop with the guys over at Southeast Imports. 12-volt battery didn't budge from 100% for like 3 days. And so I'm kind of hoping we see the same thing here, but let's just do it in real time. And that's why I'm doing this, is just to kind of show you. Car's off, the car's kind of dirty a little bit. Maybe we'll go knock some of that off at a car wash. But let me just bring up the Battery Monitor 2 app here, find the Daytona here, select it, and we'll watch in real time as it catches up and synchronizes the data. Look at that. It's been sitting essentially unused for a week, and we're at 94% with a current battery level of 12.57. That is a dramatic improvement and a dramatic change in my experience. Prior to the update that we all learned about initially from MoparTechJordan, it would sit there, and I've shown you before, if you look back at some of my other videos, the graph, in fact, let me bring the graph up. Graph here tells the whole story. And as you can see, yes, there is a slight downward draw, but that moment there, something within the battery management system picked up that, charged it up, and now it's just making its way slowly back down again. I would have expected perhaps if the car had sat here for even longer, we'd see another event like that. That means they fixed it. That means they've at least addressed one of the primary things that must have been impacting this car, and that should mean that as I do go grab the key and walk up, I should have no problem waking it up, no problem getting inside, and I shouldn't have any error messages when I turn it on. So let's go do that in real time. No editing here. Let's go back into the garage. Let's go back in here, make my way through this. Please excuse the mess. We're prepping for summer. We're gonna get the grills out. Here's the key. All right, now let's just take it over to the car. Let's try the handle. Oop, there it goes. It wakes up. And no error messages on the dash. Let's just jump in here real quick and do this in front of everyone. Oh yeah, I love that sound. All right, let's see. No lobster claws, some people like to call it. Vehicle is ready. No error messages on the infotainment screen. In fact, let's go over and see if there are any messages stored. Nope, no messages. So there you have it. The car, still fixed. still doing great. And if you haven't been able to tell already, based on all the birds chirping and the green grass and blue skies, the storms have passed and it is time to take this beast out. Do a little bit of a 3-month ownership review, 4-month ownership review, 3-month, I think is more appropriate, and maybe have a little bit of fun. All right, all of that will be coming up after this. There she is. Acquired the car in early February of 2025, and quite honestly, short of getting the windows tinted, the car still looks as good as it did the day I picked it up. This triple nickel paint is excellent at hiding dirt and a little bit of buildup that another car, say like the Z4 with its darker purple paint, within one day you could tell it hadn't been washed. I love this. Really the only giveaway is that black pano roof up here. You can see some rain drops and some dust, a little bit of pollen still from spring here in Chattanooga, but this is still one of my favorite cars. I still think it looks tremendous, and I am excited to get back on the road in this thing, see what kind of fun we can have on this long 3-day weekend.
Been a couple weeks since I dropped the car off over at Crown for the 12-volt RSU update. So I've had the car now, almost 14 days since that update's been applied, and so far it has been absolutely 100% trouble-free. And in fact, one of the things that I've noticed, there's a lot that appear to be undocumented changes as part of this software update. And one of those that I've noticed the most, beyond what I covered in the video where I picked the car up with better throttle response, better off throttle response, is the regenerative braking. So in a previous video, I'm sure you heard me complain, where the brake regen, I felt at each of the 3 available settings for brake regen, I just felt each were too strong. And I'm gonna completely table the commentary around how the changing between drive modes and how the currently selected brake regen level updates based on drive mode. Table that, because it's still something that hasn't been addressed. But almost as a consolation prize in a way, what I have noticed, and I've proven it using the onboard built-in G-force meter inside the performance pages on the gauge cluster here, is whereas before the update, when I first picked the car up and it was new, each of the 3 levels, the level 1, 2, and 3 of brake regen, essentially translated into what I believe was 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3 G of force. So if you're in level setting 1 with 1 bar there in the dash, using the paddle shifters here on the steering wheel to change it, you are essentially at 1/10 of a G when you let off the throttle. Now, in level 1, that is 0.05 G. And I don't know if you can tell, when I let off the throttle, it's about as close to a automatic ICE-powered, like a 8-speed ZF transmission or something. Letting it off feels natural. It doesn't feel abrupt. You're not seeing me jerk my head forward. I don't see my wife's head out of the corner of my eye do the brake check duck just by simply letting off the throttle. Now, I'll put it in level 2. You can begin to feel more of a significant drop. Now, level 2, after the update, is 0.1. So what had once been level 1 is now level 2. And that's back to that man, almost too hard. But it certainly is nice to go back to, again, level 1. I'm on level 1 now, and I'm letting off the throttle. And there is no sense of kind of that parachute going off behind the car and it getting slowed down rather quickly. And then level 3 is now 0.15. So it's almost as if they just cut everything in half. And I think, whether or not that's actually true, but it's what I've seen in the gauges here and what I can feel, I think that's a vast improvement. Now all they need to do is ensure that, and here I'll let off the throttle here with 3. Okay, it's like somebody has applied about 5 or 10% brake pressure there as those EDMs go from powering the car to turning into generators and reclaiming back some of that power. So I'm going to pop it back over into level 1 and leave it there, because that is my preferred level. And I'm happy with this update. That, again, is something that wasn't documented. I've looked through the paperwork. I've looked through what MoparTechJordan has provided online on the Daytona Owners Forum. And if you are interested in these cars, or you own one, or know somebody who does, I highly suggest, if you haven't gone out to the website for the Daytona Owners Forum, that you do, and you sign up and you join the rest of us. There, I think, is about 500 to 600 users out there. And when you look at the sales numbers and you see that roughly a little bit more than 2,000 units between the 2024s and the 2025s have been sold, it's about a quarter of the total user base. And I think that's a pretty good sampling of the overall ownership experience. And that's really the purpose of this video today, is to kind of just talk to you as an owner, maybe to another owner or a potential future owner who's curious to kind of really get an unbiased, candid, truthful impression. No one's paying me. Man, I wish someone was paying me to drive this car. YouTube certainly isn't paying me enough. And in fact, speaking of that, I actually did, maybe you didn't notice, because based on the performance of the video, it seems as if no one did. But I did actually release another video shortly before this one, where I spent some time focusing on some of my favorite car shows and car events in the Chattanooga area. I know it may feel like it's a bit of a promo video for Chattanooga as a car lover, and maybe in a way it is. It's just one of those things as a car guy that I really love about the town that I've decided to relocate to, and I just wanted to share it with each of you. I also interview a local businessman who has created an automotive accessories and modification company called JD Customs. They do a lot of oxidized and anodized, I guess, looking titanium parts, fasteners, switch gear, strut braces. They're just absolutely top notch, quite gorgeous, a rainbow of colors available. John's a really good guy, and I interview him, and then I install a set of strut braces I bought from JD Customs in that video. So if you did check it out, I really do appreciate it. But if you didn't, if you wouldn't mind, at the end of this video, it'll be one of those next video tiles that appears during the closing credits. If you wouldn't mind clicking on it and just giving it a go, letting me know what you think. I'm trying to kind of broaden and expand what I share and what I show. And that was just another attempt, and maybe it's clear all of you are just here for this car. So before I get back to this car, I do just want to say, if you haven't had a chance to go down there and hit the subscribe button yet, I'll just give you a couple seconds pause here as I find my way through this traffic and give you an opportunity to click it, because I would really appreciate it. Well, and seeing as we are in traffic, I think it's a perfect opportunity to cover some of the capabilities covered under the Advanced Driving Assistance System, the ADAS system implemented by Stellantis in this car. I haven't sensed any changes at all, and it still continues to be a fairly good system. Not my favorite. I think the Koreans with Hyundai's implementation of their systems is far superior, but it's not bad. And in fact, here I am in traffic. I'm just going to keep my fingertips on the wheel because it is very sensitive to hands-off situations. It goes amber rather quickly. But the car here is just keeping us at a preset distance to the car in front of us. It's stopping the car as the cars in front of us stop, and then it is returning back to moving forward again. And in situations like these, which we seem to find ourselves in more and more in the Chattanooga area, it is a convenient feature to have. But now that the car has been updated, my faith in it has been restored, my trust as a means of transportation restored. They've corrected the issue that many of us were seeing with the error that would occur when trying to use Electrify America DC fast chargers. Maybe next time that I feel better about this car and I'm just much happier with how everything's performing, it would make sense to use this one, and I'll just take you all along with me, and we'll see what it's like. Two other items that I had fixed on the car. So for those of you who maybe haven't been faithfully watching every video I put out, we'll talk about why you're not doing that later on. But two of the things that the car also went in for, in addition to that RSU that has addressed what appear to be 99% of the problems I was experiencing with the car, I also had the recall on the control stack here, the primarily switches for the air conditioning climate control system, as well as I had my driver's side seat cooling ventilation fan replaced, and the timing couldn't have been better. The performance of this new stack, I know I kind of touched upon it during the previous video, it has been stellar. It has been very responsive. In fact, I had kind of trained myself to sort of kind of hold and hammer down on the buttons to get them to respond. And now when I go to do that instinctively, I end up lowering the temperature so far that I end up freezing myself out. Also, speaking of freezing yourself out, I currently have this seat set on cooling level 3, and yeah, there is no back sweat, no swampiness going on down here. And now that it's much warmer and much brighter and sunnier, I can also say that when leaving this car outside in a parking lot, you know, I'll put a sunshade up. I'm from Texas. It's just one of those things you're kind of raised to do to kind of keep your interiors from getting absolutely fried. But you can't, at least I don't have the one that goes there. And this car will get very toasty if left out on a sunny day, a sunny warm day for sure. So if you're sensitive to the sun, not a real big fan of pano roofs, maybe skip the sun and sound option. Of course, then you lose the upgraded Alpine stereo system, or invest in the pop-out screen that can be inserted in here, or see your local window tint installer and have them put a good layer of maybe even like 5% ceramic on there, and that should take care of it. So again, with all of the issues I was experiencing fixed, it's just made the experience of being in the car, looking forward to driving the car, just that much better. You know I've very clearly outlined that the issues I had experienced sort of kind of soured or colored my impression of it, and that sort of thing kind of hangs over you. You know, especially when you have multiple cars to select from, you're always going to go with the one that you know is going to deliver whatever driving experience you're looking for. And I'm just so happy to be back kind of where I was when I first picked the car up. And I said it last time, this really truly does feel like the car I put a deposit down on, like the car I ordered, like the car I got really excited about picking up the day when it arrived. And it's good to be back. And I know this is a bit of a 3 to 4 month ownership update, but it really quite honestly feels like the car's a brand new car. And I'm looking for any reason or any excuse to get out in it. And that can be a challenge with as many cars as I have, and given that I work remotely and I don't really necessarily have to commute every day, and don't necessarily need to get out of the house, but I can surely find an excuse lately to take out this one. And now that the weather is cleared up, we are just excited to get out. And it just seems like, unfortunately, traffic had other ideas, but we'll find. There's always somewhere in Chattanooga that you can get away with a little bit of, what was it?
Jiggery-pokery.
A little jiggery-pokery, as my wife says, which
Jiggery-pokery.
sounds naughty. And I like that. I like things that sound naughty. This car certainly does. Let's put the sucker in drag mode.
It growls.
Ooh. Putting it in neutral and drag mode gives us that ability to blip the throttle for a little bit of auditory entertainment. This is only a 5,000 mile a year lease, so I've only allocated 10,000 miles for the 2 years I've leased it, which I barely get 5,000 miles a year on the cars that I own, that I drive as daily. So I felt like 5,000 was a pretty good amount. Now, speaking of leasing, there have been some absolutely incredible lease deals that blow mine away. I thought I got a great deal, and I still feel like I do. In essence, it's a 2-year, 5,000 mile a year lease, and my payment is $450. This is a fully loaded, top of the range, every option box ticked Scat Pack Stage 2. I think the sticker was right at $86,000, $87,000. Now, I didn't pay that, obviously, with a payment of $450. And I did have to make a $1,000 deposit when I first ordered it, which I just left on the car. And I covered the first month payment, which was $450, and taxes. So roughly about $2,000 down. You can beat that deal right now. I know you can. We see people doing it. There have been reports on the Daytona Owners Forum, and there have been reports on leasing sites like leasehacker.com. And a lot of people are interested in this car when the value proposition becomes so attractive. So if you're on the fence and you're still thinking about it, I'm an owner here, or leasee, however you want to categorize me. I've had the car since I'm probably one of the first 10 or 15 people in the country to have a car. And at least that wasn't a Stellantis employee, or it wasn't part of a press fleet. You know, I bought it, I paid for it, it's mine. I've been candid about my experiences. And yes, I did have some issues early on, but what I can say now is I feel much more comfortable about endorsing this car as someone's primary means of transportation if the vehicle has had the updates mine has had applied, and can trust in this car, trust in its reliability. Now, what I will say is there have been some reports of other owners who, while they have had the update applied, are still seeing some challenges with the vehicle. In fact, our friend MoparTechJordan just recently did a video with another owner and another YouTuber, Hellcat Honey, and she is another example of someone who still experienced some issues. And I don't want to steal Jordan's thunder. He's done some excellent diagnosis work and has actually determined that there were 2 other causes for what she was seeing, and has come up with a solution. One being the 12-volt battery had an internal short. So in essence, even if the car were updated, if that 12-volt battery is flaking out like that, obviously you're going to continue to see 12-volt error and cascading 12-volt error-related issues. And he discovered something else, which I'm sure he'll cover in his next video, and I'll leave that to him. But long story short, even someone much like me had the update, still had problems, took the car in, it's under warranty, and within a day, Jordan was able to diagnose and determine a resolution. And that just goes to show that I think the confidence level in these cars, which quite honestly were really lambasted for their potential problems and issues and unreliability, I think they're a I think they're a sleeper deal that's out there right now. But in the end, my point is, if you're sitting on the fence, if you've kind of been sitting on your hands, waiting from the sidelines, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. If this were my primary means of transportation, if I only had the budget for one cool car in the garage, and I decided this were it, I probably would have waited like you. But that remaining inventory, I want to say for the Scat packs, it's less than 1,000 that still remain, maybe 1,500. But for the RTs, there's a little bit more. But I would give serious consideration to finding the right unit for you, finding the right allocation that a dealer already has on their lot, and making a deal. And there are dealers out there that are willing to deal. There are dealers out there that are still stuck in this delusion of markups and $10,000 or $5,000, $50,000 over MSRP. Don't pay that. Find a dealer. Reach out to me if you can't find one. I'll help you find one. And get yourself in one of these. But more importantly, go drive one if you haven't yet. If this isn't an example of just how relaxed, calm, maybe not so quiet. Let me switch to another drive mode here so maybe you can hear me. But the car is very composed when you're not driving it like an absolute maniac. It is, in essence, more of a big, long, American, cushy Super Coupe that just so happens to have nearly 700 horsepower than it quite honestly is a muscle car. I think what it brings to the table from a muscle car perspective is essentially its legacy, the history and the heritage behind its name, and the inspiration for its looks. Yes, it does share quite a bit with its past muscle car brethren, but I don't blame you or anyone who says that's not a muscle car. It's a car, and it's a good car. And now that they've addressed, and it's really hard for you as the viewer to experience this, but now that they've addressed a lot of the kind of quality of life issues just that we experienced with the EV platform, with this STLA Large platform, the on and off throttle response. I don't ever feel the EDMs rocking anymore. I think some of the early reviewers and some of the early pre-production units had complained about that. It quite honestly feels like the car that I bought and the car that I picked up was a first generation, first year model car. This feels like I traded in my 2024 for 2026. This feels much more refined, much more balanced, but also still has all of that power that is there instantly. I mean, there is no longer any of that quarter second, tenth of a second, half a second, depends on who you ask, delay in the throttle response. You just punch it and it is on tap and it is there, and there's no wheel spin. It's all-wheel drive. This car just boogies. Ease of maneuverability, you know, for such a long car with such a long wheelbase, since they decided to just launch one platform for both the 2-door and the 4-door. You would think that the turn radius on this would be horrible, but actually, I just did a turnaround there with a slight 3-point turn. It wasn't even a cul-de-sac, it was just a dead-end street. And handled it with ease. Well, we're nearly to our dining destination, and I'm going to just wrap this portion of the video up. And then once I have stuffed myself with enough food, I think we need to find somewhere to do a little bit of jiggery-pokery.
Jiggery-pokery.
A little bit of nefarity. Is nefarity a word? Nefarious activities? Is nefarity actually?
We can make it a word.
I want to make it a word. You heard it first here on Socket Monkey Garage. And In fact, while you're Googling whether nefarity is actually a real word, if you could take that mouse and go down to that subscribe button, click it one time if you haven't already, I would super appreciate it. We are growing this channel. I'm really quite honestly shocked and impressed with the growth of my subscriber base, and what that will do is just open up more and more opportunities for me to bring a little bit more monetization and revenue in from the ad share that I get. And that's just gonna open up opportunities for more cars. Jiggery-pokery, what is the actual definition of jiggery-pokery? Oh wait, you have to look it up? I thought you were like my resident...
It is. You wanted an official...
I want to know what you think it means. And then we can look up the actual official definition.
It means to do something like sneaky and underhanded and kind of... just
okay.
Jiggery-pokery. Just
all right.
doing some like nefarious...
Something shady.
Something shady.
Being up to some shady shit.
Gonna do some shady do-da, do-da. Hope we get away with it. Jiggery-pokery is an informal term meaning dishonest or suspicious behavior.
Well, I don't know.
The phrase jiggery-pokery describes a type of sneaky or underhanded activity, often using deception or manipulation. You might hear this term when used to describe a situation where someone is playing games or trying to hide something.
Playing games or trying to hide something. That part I could agree with. The deception, not so much. There will be no deception. Well, maybe the deception, maybe the jiggery-pokery that this car's pulling off is the fact that it makes that sound back there, even though it actually has no ICE engine power plant up front. Maybe that's the jiggery-pokery.
Well, its synonym is hanky-panky.
Hanky-panky, see, no, you can't say that to Americans. That just means we're probably gonna find somewhere quiet and secluded to pull the car over to. And I won't say what we do as a result of that. But yeah, can't say hanky-panky.
But you could say jiggery-pokery.
Hanky-panky would be almost more equivalent to dogging in UK slang than jiggery-pokery.
We're gonna get up to some hanky-panky.
Yeah, yeah. That'd be a different video. I'd have
get
to
you demonetized.
Yeah, that's a different channel on a different website. All right, I'm gonna like hoon it around this traffic circle real quick before we make it to the parking lot. Whoa, yeah! Got a little bit of tire slip there. I felt a little bit of the back end kick out. That was not too bad, not too bad.
Feel for me, YouTube, feel for me.
I may have slung the wife around a little bit more than I intended. She'll be fine. I'll ply her with food and drinks tonight. She'll forget all about it. Well, I'm fed. I'm full. Probably the perfect time to go do crazy stuff in a car, huh? But I think I might have an idea where we can get away with a little shenanigans there. Obviously, anything following this moment is on a closed course. I am a professional driver and do not try this at home. I'm in the race options just to kind of catch you up. So I went here to vehicle in the menu. I've got dashboard and I've got race options. As you can see, you've got launch control, race prep, and then drift donut. This is green, which I guess means I can activate it, but apparently you can also adjust the donut to drift setting here. I'm gonna go for donut, and then I'm gonna activate. Oh. Was that pretty crazy?
That was loud.
Was it loud? Don't try this at home, kids.